You know, I've seen a lot of cinemas right across the nation, from Scotland to Wales, Tyneside, down to Tiverton. And they've all developed from silent to sound, black and white to colour. But they're still surviving. But today, so many of the cinemas are gone, knocked down, turned into car parks, some of them. But some are still standing. All right, they're not used as cinemas now, but you can tell that they used to be. Well, here we are in the Coronet on the Holloway Road. I mean, it's now a very pleasant pub, but of course it was the Coronet Cinema. What was your connection with this as a cinema?
Right, well, I worked here in 1971. I was an assistant manager here just after I came from Liverpool. I joined the ABC circuit, and this was the ABC Holloway Road in those days. Now, it did open in 1940 as the Savoy Cinema, built by ABC, and the architect was William Glenn, one of his splendid cinemas.
But Ken, I mean, let's face it, the decor here is rather wonderful. I mean, did they preserve it from the old days, or did they, well, rebuild it?
Well, no, it's never been rebuilt. The only alterations basically are the area we're sitting in was originally the front stalls. And yeah, they've now levelled the floor out for the pub. We're on the slightly raised section here in the centre. The balcony, although it's not used at the moment, you know, it is still there intact. They've put some rather nice photographs up there.
All people who would have been shown
here. People
here.
who would have had their film shown in this cinema, yes.
So if these are the front stalls, over there must have been where the screen was. It's a window now.
Yes,
there.
The screen was up the front here, just in front of us, and also they have a rather nice photograph of Casablanca just above
they've got the old
where the screen
Play
would
It
have
Again
been,
Sam
yes.
that wasn't said.
That's right, yes. The grills that we see here would have been the air conditioning system behind those, or even the organ chambers, although this particular cinema never had an organ fitted.
Would be a bit late for that, 1940.
Yeah, and also, you know, of course, 1940 was 6 months after the war had started. This opened in the February as the war commenced in the September of '39. So an organ was never fitted in this building, but it was always a popular cinema in this North London location. A lot of people probably wouldn't realise this was a cinema until they actually walked in. You know, passing it on the street, it's just another building, it could be just a pub. They walk in, they see the wonderful architecture in here, and the building is being saved, and it is a use for this type of building, yes.
And they've maintained the spirit of the cinema, if nothing else.
Yes, certainly.
Well, from the picture palaces down to the flea pits, the queues were massive. Of course, today it's all multi-screen places and the kids don't know anything else. But in the days when there was nothing else to do but go to the pictures, they built cinemas that were, well, they were like cathedrals. Now, Tony, you're one of these people who, well, obviously you're interested in films, but you're also interested in the cinema, the building.
Yes.
Now, when you come into this place, it must be about the most impressive cinema that there is in Britain. All around, it's like going into, I don't know, a medieval castle. You expect to see Errol Flynn come out fencing or something. What is the sort of style? What's it based on?
Well, the entrance hall is in the style of a medieval baronial hall with a minstrel gallery. Then you go through a phase with mirrors, which is really Italian Renaissance. Then you come into the main auditorium, which is really Venetian Gothic.
And that's where we're sitting now, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been to Venice, and frankly, it's not as impressive as the Granada Tooting.
Well, perhaps not, but it's all based on buildings in Venice of the 15th century. Little bits from here, there, and everywhere. It's quite fantastic.
Now, how did it start? Was it perhaps a music hall or something like that? Or was it purpose-built as a cinema?
It was actually built as a cinema. You see, Sidney Bernstein, who was the head of Granada Theatres, I had a couple of visits to the United States and was very impressed with some of the enormous movie palaces that he saw, the Roxy in New York, for example. And he wanted to create something similar in this country, an atmosphere that people could go into. And that's why he employed the Russian Theodore Komisarjevsky, who was a set designer and producer in the theatre, really, to design the interiors of all his Granada theatres.
And you see over there, what are those on? Are they murals painted onto the walls, sort of medieval scenes or something?
They were done by somebody called Polunin, and they're supposed to represent 15th century damsels and troubadours.
What was he trying to achieve? What sort of atmosphere was he after, the designer?
Well, I think he was trying to bring something into people's lives. You see, in those days, people perhaps didn't have a lot of money, and it was post-Depression time, 1931. Their homes perhaps weren't that comfortable, weren't that warm. Life was a bit drab. And the idea was to completely take people right out of their lives the minute they came into this theatre, as if they were in another world, a completely different world. That was the idea. And for just a few pence, the admission price, they could sit in this theatre for 3 hours or even more and be taken away from all their worries and their troubles, as if they'd gone to another planet, something like that.
So I think the poor people of Tooting would come in during the 1930s and think, whoa, it's like Buckingham Palace. I've been in Buckingham Palace and it's better than Buckingham Palace. This is far more impressive. But I mean, when did it open then? 31?
1931.
Was it a big opening? I mean, it wasn't like opening a corner shop. I mean, this is a big thing. Were the crowds turning out for it?
Oh, yes. And the press, of course, were here. They called it the Cathedral of the Motion Pictures. They said it was the seventh wonder of London. They were so impressed with it. But atmospheric theatres didn't last very long in this country. The first were 1928. They disappeared in the early 30s because by then modernism, German modernism, was coming in with Odeon theatres, and everybody copied that.
Today, to go and see a film, most people go into one of these multi-screen cinemas. But what's the difference in feeling for a chap like you to walk into a place like this? You're not going to the cinema, are you, really? Then you're walking into a little piece of architectural wonder here.
Well, going to the cinema for me used to be a real evening out. It was the building I wanted to see as much as the film. If I go to a multiplex now, it doesn't mean anything at all, really. It's like going into a small box just to watch a film. I wouldn't go for any other reason.
Whereas here, you'd come even though the film wasn't showing.
Absolutely. I would come to this building every opportunity I got, simply to see the building, because it still gives me a tremendous feeling of excitement as I walk into it. And it's almost unbelievable.
So, all those cinemas showing the finest dreams that money could buy. Of course, the dreams have died now, but some of the buildings still survive.